All right, so here we are. I am going to go through my paper that I got published in 2023, 24, 2023. See, I can't even remember. So we're going to go through it. I will read it and we will talk about it. So we will just go through the paragraphs, paragraph by paragraph. And this paper is on the dichotomy between health and drug abuse in bodybuilding. It's a very important topic because there literally is a dichotomy between health and drug abuse regarding bodybuilding. It's gotten really radical, really crazy. And, not very many people are actually talking about this and bringing it to the forefront. So, which is why I wrote a paper on this, and I want to go through it and just kind of, talk about the subject here. So, okay, let's go through the abstract here. Actually, let's just get into the introduction. Don't have to go through the abstract. So, hormonal doping has been part of the bodybuilding culture for years and continues to be an ongoing practice. It can be postulated that individuals who misuse performance-enhancing drugs, such as steroids, attain physical characteristics that cannot be achieved through endogenous means alone. Interestingly, the individuals who abuse these substances appear to be revered, idolized, and admired as exemplars of muscularity. With the advent of social media, adolescents are highly prone to the influences of these acclaimed role models and their contribution to unrealistic physical standards. Regardless, it is understandable why a muscular physique is admired, as it tends to signify the perception of power, strength, dominance, masculinity, and leadership. However, introducing drug abuse into this equation should raise questions about the individual's influence on society and whether it is positive or negative. To some adolescents, bodybuilders may be perceived as role models for health within the fitness community, and their influence on society seems to be predominantly determined by their physique. So we'll pause there. So we have a big problem with people associating health with a strong muscular physique. And in normal circumstances, this makes sense, but when we introduce drugs into the equation, it kind of falls apart, right? And then we have the youth kind of looking at these people as role models. Not good because they are not role models, because they are, in fact, abusing drugs. So, not good. As with most things today, bodybuilding's influence on society is primarily attributed to the internet. So, go social media, specifically social media platforms. Social media appears to be a source of body image issues and may be directly tied to its use. With the ease of access to information, images, and videos, and the competitive nature social media perpetuates, society could be more prone to steroid abuse than ever. More than ever. Research shows a connection between social media, body image, dissatisfaction, and increased steroid usage. Furthermore, there appears to be a link between muscularity and health, while the former is viewed as a causal factor. In addition to muscularity, lower adiposity levels are likely perceived as a representation of physical vigor and good health in society. To give credence to this idea, the literature does reveal that robust muscularity and health correspond with lower mortality rates. However, this evaluation becomes paradoxical when doping agents are used to acquire such muscularity. That said, the influence of bodybuilders may play a crucial role in shaping societal perceptions regarding the accurate portrayal of what constitutes health. The sacrifice of health in pursuit of muscularity through steroid abuse negates health and well-being. Thus, there exists a dichotomy between health and steroid abuse in bodybuilding. So that is the introduction, and basically I'm just laying out that, hey, we got a big problem, and the youth are most at risk. And at the end of the day, this is still drug abuse. It doesn't matter what drug it is abuse. And when you do it in excessive amounts, it's not good and it can be fatal, right? So a lot of people will shun recreational drugs, alcohol, cocaine, weed, marijuana. I mean, all of it, right? Of course, some of it's a bit more accepted than others, but it's very interesting how these drugs, they get a pass. It's okay. It's all right because it's health. And you'll be fine. And a lot of these drugs are taken orally, right? So it's just like just popping a pill. You're just popping vitamin C, vitamin D. It's cool. You'll be fine. So that is the introduction. I'm not going to go through the methods. And we'll go through the entire paper itself here. And we'll talk about it with each paragraph. All right, health and testosterone. So I might butcher some of these names. So testosterone was first isolated by Ernst Lequier in 1935, and Adolf Butenat and Leopold Ruzicka subsequently synthesized the hormone. In clinical settings, testosterone replacement therapy can be a tool that aids in health restoration, since low endogenous levels of this hormone might result in health complications. Although, for replacement therapy to be administered, an individual must be diagnosed with hypogonadism, which appears primarily associated with age. The benefits of TRT, when natural production is low, will improve a myriad of health markers such as bone density, sexual function, depression, and muscle mass, and it may also help prevent cardiovascular disease and metabolic syndrome. This hormonal therapy can even play a role in reducing body fat in subcutaneous and visceral fat deposition compartments. Therefore, there is a strong connection between testosterone and health. So yeah, obviously we should know, and we do know, that there is a strong connection between testosterone and health. Too low, and we have complications, and they're not good. Hence the reason why a lot of men go on TRT, they get tested, low testosterone, and then usually that's their go-to. They don't try to raise it in different ways. A lot of times it could be as simple as getting more sleep, reducing body fat, but that's not what people want to do. They want to go straight to the shots. And yes, so when it's low, there's health problems, for sure. But contrary to that, when it's high, you also have health problems as well. So there is, therapeutic reasons, and I understand that. And, makes sense why some men will go on it. However, I think that should be the last resort. You should exhaust all other options when possible. Correspondingly, there is a strong relationship between skeletal muscle mass and health, and evidence supports this, showing an enhanced quality of life and mortality extension. Thus, having high enough testosterone to build and support muscle growth could very well be argued that it affects health and well-being in a positive light. However, this positive effect on health, due to increased muscle mass, may very well be negated when an individual abuses testosterone or its derivatives. In any drug-abusing environment, there comes a point where too much becomes detrimental and possibly fatal. In toxicology, a principle is credited to the Swiss physician Paracelsus. I'm butchering that. He stated, "What is there that is not poison? All things are poison and nothing is without poison." solely the dose determines that a thing is not a poison. Since then, it has been well documented that the dosage of a substance is a crucial factor in determining the severity of poisoning. So, it's all about how much you have. You have too much water, you can die. You have too much Advil, you can die. So, anything in excess can be fatal, it can be toxic. Right? So, we do have this strong relationship between muscle mass and health, and we should have muscle mass beyond what we have without weight training. Very important. And testosterone does support muscle mass. However, when you start abusing this and you start going to excessive amounts, that is when things can go wrong and it becomes not healthy. You go from health and longevity to cutting that in, whatever, half or a quarter. So again, abuse, right? Abusive levels of any drug is going to potentially have fatal consequences. If not, then it's going to have ramifications in your health. It probably will show up somehow, some way. In bodybuilding, steroid dosages typically far exceed what is considered safe, so abuse. Consequently, many health problems can manifest. Some health issues associated with anabolic androgenic steroid abuse are infertility, cardiovascular disease, acne vulgaris, impaired insulin sensitivity, liver and kidney toxicity, and possibly brain deterioration. To get more specific between sexes, men may develop gynecomastia, alopecia, atrophy of the testes, and women may experience an enlarged clitoris, menstruation disruption, amenorrhea, masculinization in voice, and excessive body hair. So I don't know about you guys, right? But I like my nads. They're nice and large and in charge. I like my hair, I want these hair gains. I'm trying to keep these hair gains as I get older. We're not trying to lose these hair gains. You know what I'm talking about, man? You know what I'm saying, dog? We want to keep these hair gains. And women, it can get bad for you. You can grow a little bit of a peepee down there. You get facial hair. It's not good, right? Amenorrhea stops the menstrual cycle. None of it is good. It is bad. And this comes with abuse. All right? From the current literature, it is clear that health complications occur with exogenous sources of anabolic steroids when exogenous sources of anabolic steroids are being abused, usually at high levels, of course. However, as mentioned previously, a deficiency in endogenous testosterone may also lead to health issues. Therefore, intervention measures with TRT may be a potential solution to mitigate these problems. Even so, the long-term safety of TRT is still unknown. The administration of TRT may exacerbate health issues in older men prone to comorbid conditions such as prostate cancer and cardiovascular disease. In such scenarios, close oversight should be integral to this therapy. Regardless, it should be noted that therapeutic doses and doping doses cannot be equated. Therapy administered to treat a specific hormonal deficiency to improve health, while doping, as with anabolic steroids, is intended to achieve atypical muscularity, at least in bodybuilding. So again, TRT, therapeutic, it is sometimes needed, a lot of times it's not, and a lot of times men and women especially are overdosed with TRT. It's a moneymaker. Pharmaceutical companies are just making a killing with this stuff. So, of course, here, have more. More. You want more? Sure, we'll bump you up. It's cool. It's fine. Especially with women. It's so crazy that, endogenous levels in women typically have, there are, certain cases, but you will have higher estrogen relative to testosterone. And of course, menopause hits and things get a little wacky and estrogen basically drops to almost nothing. And then they go to a clinic and then they want to give you estrogen, maybe progesterone, testosterone, but they push the test way high. And then they keep the estrogen low. And it's just so bizarre. It's so crazy because that's not how the endogenous system was pumping this out before menopause, right? But you go to these clinics, these docs, you trust them, and they're like, oh, it's okay. We'll just we'll give you a little bit of estrogen, and then we'll just push that test way high. So I don't know. The pharmaceutical companies, it's just about money. It's just about money, and I don't think they care. I don't think they care about you. I don't think they care about your health. I think they're just out there to make money with a lot of different drugs, right? This is not the only one. So if people have an actual issue and it's therapeutic, I understand, after you exhaust all other options. But you have to be very careful that these docs, they don't overdose you because they will. It's very common. So that was health and its relation to the hormone testosterone. So let's talk about the rise of steroids. Since the inception of bodybuilding in the 19th century, practitioners have continuously explored various ways to increase muscle hypertrophy and strength. Muscle hypertrophy represents the enlargement of skeletal muscle mass and cross-sectional area, which can occur by adding sarcomeres in series or parallel to each other. Pursuing physique goals can often elicit this behavior of, quote, doing whatever it takes to achieve the outcome, even if compromising health accompanies that goal, of course, right? Coincidentally, anabolic steroids started gaining traction among bodybuilders and athletes in the 1950s. So, bodybuilding has been around for a while. And when steroids kind of came on the scene, because people were natural before this, believe it or not. Okay, so we did have some natural lifters out there. And so there comes along this drug, and it's potent, it's magical. And a lot of people will argue that it's not, but of course, if it wasn't, then why are you taking it? You wouldn't take it. If it wasn't as potent as it really is, you would not take it. Period, end of story. So let's get off that whole, it's not that potent, or they're not magic, or you still have to, whatever. Okay, so then get off your drugs. Like, hop off, and you will just size down like the rest of us, outside of some genetic freaks, which most are not. You'll size down, right, like most of us, and you'll just be natural. You'll be normal. So anyway, yeah, so the bodybuilding world started getting more popular, of course, and then, people have this mentality of let's do whatever it takes to get these gains, to get muscularity, to get more. So, yeah, that's the reality of that. Anabolic androgenic steroids are synthetic derivatives of testosterone that have potent effects on muscle protein synthesis and fat oxidation. So again, yes, extremely potent. Doping dosages of anabolic steroids are quantified at levels exceeding average physiological production, approximately 10 to 100 times greater than the average endogenous output. So usually people that abuse these drugs, they abuse them at really high levels, much more than we can produce internally, right? In contrast, this is considerably higher when hedged against therapeutic levels administered, which are typically placed in the range of 400 to 700 nanograms per deciliter. And that's what you usually find in therapy settings. Whenever they test again, you go back in for blood work. Usually men with therapeutic levels will be in this range, and abusive levels, they'll be way out of this range, much higher. Consequently, steroid doping in sports became the norm in the 1970s as it was highly advantageous in building muscle strength and performance. And again, yes, we know this. It's very potent, and a lot of the people out there that say, it's not that potent. I mean, you know it is. You know it is. We know it is. We all know it is. You're just trying to justify it. You're just trying to act like it doesn't really do anything, right? You still have to put in the work. Well, hey, guess what? A lot of us put in the work. There's a lot of us that go in the gym and put in the work, right? And we just don't get the same result. And by the way, there's a lot of steroid users who don't put in the work. Do you know how many of them are not that strong and they don't push close to failure? The majority. The majority of bodybuilders on steroids, and this is going to piss a lot of people off, but it's the truth. The majority of them are not that strong because they don't have to get strong to get gains. They're not that strong, and they don't push that hard. Many of them go in and kind of fluff around. Not all of them. Some of them work hard. Some of them are strong, for sure. But the majority, they don't have to play that game. They don't have to play the intensity game. They don't have to play the progressive load game of getting stronger. They don't have to, right? Naturals do. Well, it's much different game that we're playing here, right? So again, this is how potent they are. All right, that the fact that they don't have to focus on strength and getting proximal to muscular failure, whereas a natural lifter does if they want to be larger. They have to focus on getting closer to failure and getting stronger. And those who abuse steroids do not. And therefore, it's very potent. Like, you can kind of get away with murder a little bit. You know, you can make more errors in your program design is basically what I'm saying. And it happens with food too. You can make more errors. All right. Due to its extreme potency and abuse, the IOC added anabolic steroids to its banned substance list in 75. In 76, steroid testing was first implemented at the Montreal Olympics. So even they noticed, something's different. Something is different here with these, sporting events. But despite the stringent regulations imposed on drug testing, the use of steroids persisted among athletes. However, it was thrust into the limelight in '88 when Canadian sprinter Ben Johnson tested positive for the steroid stanozol and had his Olympic gold medal withdrawn. So he beat, I think it was Carl Lewis, right? And you can even tell, remember, if you watch that footage when he was getting the first place, he wasn't even happy. He knew he cheated. 2 years later, Congress passed the Anabolic Steroid Act in 1990, making steroids illegal, placing them as a Schedule III drug in the CSA. Subsequently, in the 90s, numerous athletic organizations started to prohibit anabolic steroids and forbade their use during competitions. However, the credibility of these policies were questionable since specific organizations, including the MLB, did not actually enforce drug testing for steroid use. So, as we all know, there was a big problem in baseball. But, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Baseball, whatever, football, doesn't matter. Bodybuilding, everybody wants to be, they just want to be mesmerized by the physiques, by the home runs, by, the touchdowns. And that's what people want. People want to just, they want the show. They want the show. They want to see the show. And of course, as we know, taking drugs that improve muscularity and strength can give you a better show, right? To gain better understanding of the efficacy of steroids, research on these hormonal compounds was pursued. Now, here's a very interesting study that I like to always bring up because this puts down steroids are not that potent. They don't, they're not magical. They're not as magical as everyone says they are. Well, this study kind of says otherwise. In 1996, Basin and colleagues conducted a randomized control trial that explored the effectiveness of 600 milligrams of testosterone ethanoate weekly on strength-trained men. One of the groups that was administered testosterone but did not work out. Okay, so they got the test, but they didn't lift. They had an increase of 3.2 kilograms in fat-free mass. While in comparison, those in the placebo plus exercise group, so they did not receive testosterone but were strength trained, had an increase in 1.9 kilogram fat-free mass. It should be noted that the group who strength trained and received supraphysiological testosterone doses saw more significant results than the other groups. However, this study illustrates the exceptional power behind the hormone testosterone, even when strength training is not implemented. So, look it up. I will link this paper in the description, my paper. And then you can go through it and you can find this section of the Basin study. So there are actually 4 groups. But what I'm trying to highlight here is the group that took testosterone and did not work out saw more muscle gain than the group that worked out with a placebo that had no testosterone. So that's very important. There was a group, I will say it again, who got the shot, got the 600 milligrams of testosterone. They did not work out. They sat on their butt. Okay? They gained more muscle than the group that actually worked out but did not take testosterone. That's very eye-opening. And if anybody wants to refute that, they refute the fact that these drugs are very potent and they have this capability. It's just one study. It is an RCT. It's just one study. It's a hard thing to replicate. But, it's there. We have something. Okay? And anecdotally, we see it. Or should I say empirically? We see it. Okay? In 1999, the IOC organized a global conference on doping in sports. Subsequently, it established a sister entity named the World Anti-Doping Agency, so WADA, to aid in the fight against sports doping. This conference resulted from authorities finding copious amounts of PEDs and drug paraphernalia during the 98 Tour de France. Even with rigorous drug testing protocols established, it continued to be an ongoing issue in sports through the black market. Underground drug labs began to create ways to circumvent drug testing and started manufacturing designer steroids, which are modified versions of existing steroids. The goal was to produce undetectable substances that evaded drug testing methods. Consequently, the chemical structure of designer steroids was diverse enough that organizations like WADA and the IOC had difficulty detecting these drugs in the athlete's bloodstream. So basically, we'll get into it here with Balco, but these designer drugs, you could take them and you could test and they couldn't catch you. Right? So designer drugs were just not, they were undetectable. So you could literally be hopped up on all this crap and they could test you. Well, sure, test me. Here's my blood. Here's my urine. Here's my hair. Whatever you gotta do. And found nothing. All right? So this was a big thing. The first designer steroid, tetrahydrogesterone, THG, was found in 2003 using liquid chromatography with tandem mass spectrometry. A whistleblower anonymously mailed a syringe containing THG, the designer steroid. They mailed it to the USADA. And subsequently, the substance was tested. And I don't know if, I guess they weren't doing this testing. Maybe they created a new test when they caught wind of this. I don't know. But somebody tipped them off and they're like, all right, well, let's test. Let's actually test or create a new test. Do something. The Balco, the Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative, was primarily responsible for designing and distributing undetectable steroids to athletes between the late 90s and early 2000s, which became known as the Balco scandal. The discovery of THG began an intense investigation of several high-profile athletes. Allegedly, multiple athletes received THG from Balco, and some were stripped of their medals and even banned from competing again. Good. What are you doing? Right? Like, stop. Stop doing that stuff. As a result of undetectable steroids becoming the norm, most major athletic organizations have established more thorough drug testing protocols and enforced drug policies to ensure athletes do not have an unfair advantage over other competitors. And that's how it should be, right? That's how it should be. However, in bodybuilding, some organizations, such as the International Fitness and Bodybuilding Federation, IFBB, and National Physique Committee, NPC, have been questioned on their drug testing regulations and policies. The scrutiny comes from observations of the bodybuilders affiliated with these federations, being that they exhibit a greater degree of physical size, density, and leanness when compared to their counterparts in drug-free established federations. So clearly, they're much larger and leaner and more dense. All the things, right? All the things. Nonetheless, the IFBB has been a signatory to the WADA Code since 2003. Okay. Ensuring anti-doping rules are in accordance with WADA. Yeah. But in 2022, some reports suggested that the IFBB failed to comply with the regulations about PEDs, and as a result, may have lost its endorsement from the WADA and its corresponding privileges. That's not a shocker. I mean, I don't even know who thought it was a good idea. I mean, who believed, oh, yeah, we'll sign this. Yeah, we're drug free. We're part of the Drug Free Federation. No, you're not. NPC, IFBB, they don't care. Okay, they don't test. They don't care. This is where you see all the freaks. And not even freaks, just people with abnormal muscular development. So if you're drug free and you're a competitor and you want to go in bodybuilding or bikini or figure or any of that, and you vow to stay away from bodybuilding dope, then do yourself a favor. Do not enter any the IFBB is the pro version. You have to go through NPC to IFBB, so that's pro. But don't enter any NPC competition. Don't do it. Not only are you going to have an unfair advantage if you're truly, truly drug-free, right? But you're giving them money. You're giving the world of bodybuilding dopers money. Don't support them. It is no mystery why bodybuilders began harnessing the potent properties of anabolic steroids since they efficaciously augment strength recovery and muscle growth. Yeah, of course they do. Even amid potential health complications and premature death, the risk outweighs the reward for many. In addition to the abundance of authentic anabolic steroids and their dangers, the black market is also rife with counterfeit and poorly controlled substances, which increases the user's health risk as well. Of course, even if you get the real stuff and you abuse it, you're at risk. If you get counterfeit stuff, I mean, what do you even put in your body? It's crazy. A perfect foundation has been laid to sell fake drugs since acquiring PEDs online appears to be extremely easy. So now we can get anything online. Typically, counterfeit drugs contain either a completely different active ingredient than listed, smaller amounts than listed, or no active ingredient. So again, you don't even know what you're getting unless you do some at-home testing, which there are some kits out there, but it doesn't matter. It's just, none of it's good. In any case, they will have adulterants or what is known as cutting agents that resemble the drug to increase bulk and maximize margins. So it's just like if you have a bag of Coke and you have a dealer, they're going to cut the Coke and put something else in there so they can have more of it to sell. So they'll add things. Counterfeit or contaminated steroids can also adversely affect health, depending on the adulterated agent. Physical problems include pain, abscesses and infections, and mental anxiety about suffering the negative consequences of using counterfeit substances. So again, you don't know what you're actually injecting, right? And some people are scared, about it. But I mean, you have no clue. What are we doing, people? Why are you just... I mean, we know why, but it's silly. It's silly. Social media influence. We're almost done. You've been here for a while. Good on you. Social media influence. The internet, particularly social media, freaking poison. Poison! Might be a source of addiction for some individuals, which can cause psychological, neurological, and social problems. Interactions via social media can release dopamine inside the brain as it stimulates reward pathways. Dopamine is a chemical secreted in the brain that makes an individual feel pleasure, motivation, and satisfaction. With this in mind, body image dissatisfaction in recent years can be traced back to social media usage. Interestingly, it also appears that body image dissatisfaction and an increase in anabolic steroid usage are correlated to the advent of social media. As previously discussed, PEDs, such as steroids, have been an ongoing problem in bodybuilding and athletics, but now adolescents might be targets. Of course, social media is a problem. It's poison for so many reasons. And, I mean, everyone's comparing themselves to everyone on social media in many different ways. It is a cesspool of just crap. That's what it is. I personally don't like social media, but I can see how this would affect the mind, and it has been in a lot of different ways, but especially with this, all the sexual exploitation, and then you look at these other people and you're comparing yourself, and you're like, oh, how come I don't look like him, and what do I need to do, and what are they doing? And a lot of times these people are they're using drugs. I believe the majority of the fitness influencers out there are using some kind of PED, period. That's what I think. Social media, especially image, so basically what I just mentioned, image-focused platforms such as Instagram, the worst, allow individuals to showcase their physique and fitness progression. Therefore, there's the desire to keep up, outperform, or look better than others is a constant reality. We're being fed this, especially with the algorithm, right? These platforms can create a state of social comparison and fertile ground for envy, and consequently, it's been linked to depression. Social media users are frequently exposed to images and videos daily. If the algorithm is catered to health and fitness, individuals may experience persistent exposure to content that showcases muscular, well-built physiques in conjunction with low adiposity. This social monitoring could potentially lead to heightened pressure to acquire a similar body and can result in dangerous practices such as using anabolic steroids due to muscle dysmorphia. So, like I was saying, we're scrolling, we see, and the algorithm does what it's supposed to do, and you just keep seeing these images of these people, and you're just like, why am I not where I need to be? Why I've been doing this for however long? Why do I not look like that? It can be very poisonous to the mind. And it's hard to not compare yourself with other people. I think everybody does it to some degree with something. And it's life. This is life. And we shouldn't. We should only compare ourselves to us, and how far we've come, our progression. But it's very hard not to, especially on these social media platforms when we see all this garbage. But again, a lot of these people, it's not what it seems. A lot of stuff's photoshopped. They're taking steroids. They might have some kind of... I saw a video, of this chick, and she was probably exposing what women do, but she had some kind of a bodysuit on for her legs, her glutes, and then she was taking, photos. And I think she was just exposing what is potentially out there. You just got to be careful. You got to be careful, because what we see on social media, it's either not real, it's fake, or they're abusing drugs, which again is not real, it's fake, it's not reality. That is not rooted in reality. This is not health. This is not what a natural body looks like. Okay, it's not what a natural body that lifts. It's not what they look like. Doesn't matter. Woman, man, doesn't matter. You have to really just question. Moreover, social media rewards its users through likes, comments, and follows based on user-generated content. This reward system may persuade physique goals. Consequently, PEDs such as anabolic steroids could be abused. So, enhanced muscularity can increase precedence and status, right? So, of course, a stronger physique, robust physique, status. Of course we want that, especially men, right? Especially dudes. And I get it. I totally understand. And thus appearing more successful to themselves and others. And there is something to be said for that. When a man walks in and they have a strong muscular physique, it signifies some things. And good things, right? Of course, if you cheat to get it, to me, like, it's fake. Like, it's not. You got small balls, bro. Like, you can't walk around like you're freaking, this and that when you got little tiny nuts. You know what I mean, dog? I'm just saying. But there's something to be said for a strong, robust physique. People pay attention. They do. So I get it. I completely understand. And it is this appearance that they are successful for themselves and others, at least in that realm. Since social media is very competitive space, and garnering attention is difficult, which it is, a muscular physique may grant such esteem and status. Furthermore, on these social media platforms, fitness influencers sell their products or programs and often convey that their physical progress has been acquired naturally without doping. This veracity is uncertain. However, some have postulated that over half of the fitness influencers on social media use PEDs. I think it's more than half. I really do. There's a lot of good natural channels out there and lifters, and there's some that are lying about it, for sure. People like Mike O'Hearn, and there's a handful of them. It's like, give me a break, dude. Give me a break, bro. You're like almost 60, okay? And you still have a fit. No, that's not how this works. But it's okay. People want to keep lying. They want to keep selling whatever they got, their persona, their personal brand, their coaching programs. That's how it works, right? So you just can't trust these people. You really can't. I've gotten competitors for shows, and because we used to do natural competitions, and I've gotten competitors that have come to me, and they had previous coaches. People lie. This is my point to the story. People just lie, and it's all a facade. It's fake, right? The previous coach tried to put them on steroids and compete in natural shows. This happens a lot. A lot of these coaches will put their people on certain compounds. It's not hard to beat a drug test if you know what you're doing. And then they have them get off the compounds, and then they compete. This happens more than you think. And it's all just sham. It's all a sham. The whole thing is just fake. So no one's real about this stuff. More people have been coming out lately. There's been more transparency with this stuff, which is great. Because, like I said in one of my other podcasts, it creates this dichotomy, this contrast between where are you in the sand, right? Keep coming out, everybody. Keep being transparent, because you are building, you are literally creating a group of people, a host of people, a community that don't want that don't want steroid abuse, that don't want drug abuse. They want holistic, they want health, they want wellness, they want natural stuff. That's what they want for their life, the longevity. So keep being transparent, guys. I love it, because you are literally creating a wave of true health and wellness inside of bodybuilding. Because a lot of people now, they don't want it. Just look at the comments. You guys can post your crazy, abnormal physique online and just take a look at those comments. People are fighting back. People don't want it. They don't want it. We don't want it. I don't want it. Because there is a clear difference between what health is and bodybuilding drug abuse. Period. Social media and unrealistic physique standards of fitness influencers may push recreational exercisers into using anabolic steroids to achieve comparable results. In addition, the ease of locating information is relatively simple today. Like I said, people are very transparent now. You have podcasts dedicated to this. Many can go online in groups and forums, remain anonymous, and discuss the topic while amassing pertinent information. So Reddit, just a click away, really not that hard. Unfortunately, the information on anabolic steroids is typically found through non-medical or science backgrounds, but rather from misleading sources such as bodybuilders, athletes, and drug dealers. Now, people, it has been getting better, the education on the topic. I have seen, again, going back to the bros out there on YouTube that are transparent about this. There is a lot of people, well, not a lot, but there's a handful of people that are very, very educated on the topic of bodybuilding drugs. So that is getting better. And, dare I say, safer than it used to be. So I guess that's good. If you're going to do it, at least try to be, if you're going to do that dumb crap, at least know what you're doing, know what you're taking, And some people do, a lot of people don't. I think they just start injecting. All right. They just start taking stuff. Okay, so the discussion here. According to the literature, when testosterone deficiency occurs, testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, can improve health and daily life. This type of therapy appears safe when not abused and is used to help issues such as sexual function, depression, muscle mass, and bone density. For sure. However, when it is abused, health complications and even death can occur, and we've seen that. A lot of people are just dropping dead. A lot of people. Testosterone is typically abused through anabolic steroids, which are testosterone derivatives. Anabolic steroids are potent hormonal drugs that increase muscle strength and performance. Otherwise, these drugs would not be considered viable. If they were not potent, you would not take them. I'm so sick of seeing comments when someone calls out steroid abuse or whatever you guys are taking these days, peptides, 57-1-5 peptide, whatever, right? Anytime people call it out, I love it, all of the people come out of the woodwork. Well, you still have to work. Oh, you still have to put in the work. It's not, you couldn't take it and be Mr. Olympia. Nobody's saying that. No one's saying Jay Horn is going to take 600 milligrams of testosterone, 800, 1,000 a week, and become Mr. Olympia. Nobody's saying that. We're just saying that they are very, very potent, and they do work kind of magically. So take it as you will. Anabolic steroids are, yes, in physical fitness, the primary objective of anabolic steroid abuse is to acquire appreciable muscle growth and strength. Moreover, and perhaps a significant consideration, a dose-response relationship exists between testosterone strength and muscle growth. Essentially, the drug's potential to induce muscle growth and strength increases proportionally with the dosage administered, thus suggesting a solidified reason for its abuse. So it's commensurate, right? The more you take, the more muscle mass. The more you take, the more muscle mass. Now, there's a point of diminished returns, but it's pretty high. And when you hit that point of diminished returns is where you get side effects. But There is a dose-response relationship, and then it tends to segue into side effects. But you got to get up there. And of course, this does differ for everyone. It's not the same. You might have side effects at a lower dosage than somebody else, right? The bodybuilders of the 50s, 60s, and 70s paved the way for more recreational bodybuilders today. After 1980, steroids segued into the general population and rapidly engulfed society. Since then, these compounds have become more abused, even by those not competing in bodybuilding or athletic sports. So, everyone's taking them. A lot of people are taking them. Not everyone. A lot of people. The banker, the real estate agent. Research has discovered that most steroid users are not professional bodybuilders or athletes, but instead recreational lifters focused on aesthetics. It is easy for individuals to acquire these drugs on the internet since they are readily available and straightforward to purchase with no prescription. Interestingly, internet purchases are the primary source of anabolic steroid acquisition. Scary. With such ease of acquisition, the widespread use of anabolic steroids has become a health concern in our society. The problem comes with abuse, as it has been linked to various adverse health effects, including liver damage, infertility, cardiovascular disease, and psychiatric disorders. Yeah, abuse. What do you expect, people? Even though steroids are heavily embedded inside the fitness world, it is commonly accepted that gym culture is a positive and healthy endeavor. It is. It is. And it can really change your life. It really can in so many different ways. You just got to stay clean. The influence of fitness promotes health and helps fight the obesity epidemic that seems to be trending. Research shows we have a health crisis, as obesity rates have tripled between 1975 and 2014, and evidently, things are getting worse with time. Gym culture and its popularity can help fight this rise in obesity, but like anything, it can go too far, and obsession may very well segue into adverse behavior and consequences. That said, a double-edged sword exists inside health-promoting gym culture due to rampant drug abuse. Nonetheless, the infusion of hormonal drugs such as steroids can potentially undermine the health benefits of an exercise lifestyle. This, of course, negates the primary purpose of a healthy lifestyle and instead compromises health and well-being. Thus, the importance of safe practices must be addressed and the abuse of hormonal drugs must be discouraged. So, this happens a lot. A lot of people start getting in the gym, they get healthy, they meet a bro, or whoever, a trainer. A lot of trainers. There was a club I used to train at here in Vegas, and there was a lot of us. At one point, there was over 100 trainers, and it was littered with a bunch of steroid coaches, and it's in and out, just, drugs. A lot of these trainers will they are the drug dealers. A lot of these trainers are the drug dealers to their clients. Yeah. So, I don't know. You just got to be careful because, it's not good. As I've been saying this whole time. That ain't good. Furthermore, it must be noted that adolescents who enter the athletic and strength training world are vulnerable to the influence of social norms. So our kids. The aspiration to achieve a muscular physique can often be encouraged by images and videos on social media, and it appears that the use of anabolic steroids may correlate to this. Yeah, like I said, you compare. You look at it and you're like, I want to look like that. I need steroids. Not good. During adolescence, research shows that the influence of social media could harm body image and mental health. Social media does that in general. Mental health harms it. These social media influencers may highly influence younger adults who are simultaneously active on social media and in strength training. There seems to be pressure to emulate what they visually consume online, which could gateway them to using PEDs. In addition, adolescents may overlook the health problems associated with anabolic steroids or may not be aware of the dangers as they are more focused on the anabolic outcomes of the drugs. So I think a lot of kids and people at this point, they know the consequences, but a lot of people just don't care. They don't care. You know, they're willing to take the risk. It is what it is. So here is the conclusion. We're at the end. Amazing. The abuse of anabolic steroids poses a significant threat to the health of our society. Yes. It has been commonly accepted to parallel a robust physique with health and well-being. Rightfully so, as this can be a good indication of health and well-being. While steroids and other PEDs can promote muscle growth, strength, and even fat loss, abusing these substances, let me do that instead, because following it is getting me confused. I don't like it when I'm confused. While steroids and other PEDs can promote muscle growth, strength, and even fat loss, abusing these substances can lead to adverse health outcomes. In addition, inside gym culture, steroid abuse promotes cheating and deception and dismisses the negative and sometimes deadly consequences it brings. And it is cheating and it is deception. You are for sure cheating your gains because you didn't earn that. Right? And the deception comes when people ask you. And a lot of people still today, even though there's more transparency, people still lie. People are lying all the time about this because they don't want to feel like a cheater. They don't want to be discredited. They don't want their hard-earned gains to just be, crapped on. They don't want that. They want to be praised. They want the admiration. They're not going to tell you. Because then it opens them up to scrutiny. It opens them up to, All right, so I ran out of space on my computer, so I had to get through this quickly. So, okay. Where was I at? Deception, cheating. It's more transparent, but people are just lying about it these days. Not good. The reliance on anabolic steroids to achieve extreme muscularity and lower body fat levels can create a disillusioned reality of what health represents. It may also instill guilt as it is acquired through elusive means where accomplishment is not earned but hacked. So adolescents who idolize those inside the fitness culture are vulnerable and more at risk of abusing these substances. So our kids are for sure at risk because a lot of our kids and a lot of you adults, you're idolizing these people. You've loved them. You follow them. You heart everything. You like your fans. You admire so much admiration around these people. But they're not good for our kids. They're not good for society. These are drug abusers. Period. End of story. Right? The health messaging conveyed by the fitness influencer and bodybuilding community should be questioned due to its deceptive promotion of unhealthy practices rooted in drug propaganda. And that's what it is. It is drug propaganda. Drugs have their place and are probably both the best and worst discovery of humanity. They do have their place. I will admit that, right? I will, what's the word? Not admit. It's not admit. Concede. I will concede that they have their place. But their abuse does not come without serious risk. The dichotomy between health and steroid abuse in bodybuilding is clear. Both cannot exist. They can't. All right, so I'm going to put this in the description here, and then you can go through and read it if you want. If you like to read, you can check out some of these references that I have in here. But that's where we're at. This is the paper. And I'm very proud of this paper. And this was definitely something very important to me. Near and dear to my heart. I'm drug-free. I'm alcohol-free, everything. I grew up as a kid. I saw the destruction of drugs. And I vowed to stay away from drugs. So to this day, I've never done anything. I've never drank. It is a deep-seated conviction that I have in my heart. and it means very much to me. And it just so happens that what I do for a living, my vocation, it has segued into this. And it has easily segued into this, where I can maintain that conviction and push and promote and champion this conviction. So stay drug free. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.